The topic of this presentation is Other Lives, the Ostensible Realities Beyond Past, Present, and Future. And here are two quotes that may set up the road to this presentation. The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Albert Einstein, he wrote that in his letter to the family of his friend Michelle Besso, actually on the occasion of her death. And the other one is, there's a possibility to put time out of existence to see all life which was, is, and will be as if it was simultaneous. That was from Hermann Hesse, Siddhartha. We'll talk about past lives. As you well know, there are therapies such as past life therapy, life in between life therapy, timeline therapy that deal with the concept of past lives. So we'll talk about past lives. We'll talk about concepts of karma and reincarnation, and also briefly about the topic of reincarnation research. What are these past lives? We'll look into that, and I will introduce the concept of other lives, and we'll see what other lives are. So therefore, the hypothesis is not all alleged past life experiences can be verified, and the evidence of such experiences can be provided and accepted, because those experiences may not necessarily portray exact historical events, correspond to existing or existed geographical locations, and may not be reference to particular individuals of whom the historical records exist. The concept of other lives. Other lives may represent the experiences associated with some apparent realms of existence that are affiliated with specific structures of human consciousness. These structures are possibly interconnected with karmic layer of the human subtle energy body. That touches the topic of subtle energy body and the subtle energetic anatomy. So different doctrines provide some insight into a different structure of the subtle energy body. One of those defines 7 structures, 7 shells or 7 bodies, including this solid one and higher frequency bodies as well. Karmic body is basically one of those 7 shells, according to this philosophy. The descriptions of events and people in other lives may relate to some ostensible realities or domains of expanded consciousness. They may have existed and continue to exist in parallel with a reality which is associated with the history of humanity as it is known to us. Other life experiences may resemble but not necessarily depict potentially existing other life, potentially existing past lives. And this basically reiterates the hypothesis, and we'll explore that. So what is the possible explanation? The other life phenomena may be explained by a combination of two concepts. The first concept is the multidimensionality of human consciousness in connection to the theory of soul fragmentation. The concept of soul fragmentation or soul multiplicity that could be related to the construct of subpersonalities should not be confused, for that matter, with the personality organization known as multiple personality disorder. The existence of subpersonalities within the whole personality structure is a principally different experience compared to the manifestation of multiple or secondary personalities in patients with MPD. Multiplicity within the human personality is not perceived as an abnormality, since it means multiplicity in personality rather than the flagrant multiple personality. Here's how the illustration how Dr. Rosen sees the concept of multiple personalities in his psychotherapeutic practice. The other concept in conjunction with the theory of soul fragmentation that may explain the other life phenomena is the proposition of the existence of multiple realities. It is based on the theory of nonlinearity of time continuum, which had been postulated by Einstein, Schrödinger, Reichenbach, and adopted by quantum physics. And this is the illustration of the multiple universes or multiple realities concept. For each of us, an indefinite number of universes exist simultaneously. So the typical universe layer, each universe has its own time sequence, or each universe may be slightly different of the next one, and may internally and may entirely unrelated. This is another illustration of the principle of multiple universes, and at a certain point we have those two guys, and he says, would you like to go for a drink? And at a certain point the timeline continuum may split, and one possible scenario is that she says, I'm sorry, I'm too busy, and it goes that way, or she may say, sure, why not, and it ends up in a totally different scenario. Most recently, a number of theoretical models have been developed which offer an explanation for the consciousness phenomena of other lives in connection with the existence of multiple realities from the position of parapsychology. This is another illustration what happens in another parallel universe to ours. So the guy could give some explanation of multiple realities phenomena. The concept of past lives goes back in history to the times of ancient India, Greece, and Rome. It is closely connected with the theory of reincarnation or rebirth that is part of a number of Eastern religions, religious and philosophical doctrines such as Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, and Taoism. This belief has also been supported by some Western and Middle Eastern systems of philosophical thought such as Kabbalistic Judaism, Rosicrucian and Cathar Christian traditions, Alawi tradition in Islam, anthroposophical and theosophical European doctrines, Zoroastrianism, and some others. The term reincarnation is defined here as reinfleshment and refers to a surviving soul or some other spiritually significant aspect of a deceased being assuming a new unsouled body and hence having another life. Whereas rebirth is the most general and most inclusive term for what is also called reincarnation. The first notion of karmic, meaning based on cause and effect of person's actions, rebirth could be found in Brahmana writings such as Satapatha Brahmana, and subsequently the concept of cyclical rebirth, reincarnation, appears in the Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya Upanishads. These are considered among the oldest philosophical texts and dated circa 6th, 5th century BCE. Also, earliest existing Jain texts such as Akaranga and Uttaradhyayana, I made it, sutras, describe the multiple cycles of birth and rebirth as a result of one's karma, where karma is referred to as the concept of inevitable and moral consequences of action. Karma is action. So here's the illustration how basically karma works. The theory of karma is directly interconnected with the concept of reincarnation and rebirth, as we talked. According to Vedic texts, it was believed that the law of karma directly influences a person's good or evil rebirth, positive or negative causes from one's birth. The earlier conception of karma as the law of retribution later gained the significance of the law of cause and effect. The possibility of accessing the information related to past lives through a contemplative trance, a state of consciousness reached in a concentrated meditation, was noted in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras of India. Actually, Patanjali meant samadhi as the form of this deep contemplative meditation. The most recent research on reincarnation and past lives is presented in the works of such scholars as Ian Stevenson, Jim Tucker, Erlendur Haraldsson, Antonia Mills, Satwan Pasricha, and some others. Evidence of PLEs is controversial based on the skepticism and criticism from the scientific community, and also failure of some experiments to verify the accuracy of these experiences. As you can see, there are pretty substantial body of critical literature accumulated regarding in connection to reincarnation hypothesis. So this is the illustration how reincarnation may be interpreted. PLEs have received a mixture of interpretations and have been associated with a variety of phenomena that range from paranormal encounters and altered states of consciousness to fantasy constructions, repressed memories, genetic memories, and some other. Actually, there are a number of hypotheses, the alternative hypothesis to reincarnation hypothesis. We don't have, unfortunately, time, and it basically comes out of the scope of this presentation to cover all of them. Tarazi, in her research of the case, hypnotic PLE case, addressed all these hypotheses, and also Mills and Lynn in their book also talked about different hypotheses as alternative hypothesis to reincarnation. The belief in reincarnation has drawn significant attention in the recent years and continues to gain the recognition among researchers, medical professionals, as well as general public. This belief is usually connected, among other aspects of this phenomena, to the ability of a person to recall what they believe represents their past lives, meaning reported experiences of or impressions of oneself as a particular person other than one's current life identity in a previous time or life. This recall occurs in several forms, two of which are hypnotic and spontaneous. They represent two corresponding types of reincarnation cases that have been the subject of scientific investigation. The first one, the hypnotic PLE, is a description, the descriptions of alleged previous life experiences retrieved under hypnosis in a therapeutic, either in a therapeutic environment during past life regression therapy or in controlled studies. There were not that many controlled studies conducted regarding the hypnotic PLEs. The most notable, the most known is probably done by Kampmann, Venn, and a number of studies conducted by Spanos and colleagues at Carleton University in Canada. The second one is the documented reports of young children who spontaneously remember the facts, circumstances, and specific details of the life of the deceased people, and in some instances demonstrate the behavioral patterns and emotional longings inherent to the personalities of these deceased individuals. This type was very in-depth research by Ian Stevenson and colleagues, and Stevenson spent almost all his life, over 50 years, doing this research. In neither case have PLEs ever been regarded as an unequivocal proof of reincarnation. However, the results of various in-depth investigations of this phenomena in the last 50 years have accumulated a vast body of evidence that supports the validity and plausibility of the hypothesis of reincarnation. That gives us some idea of how many works, mostly by Stevenson and his colleagues, were done in the field of spontaneous PLEs research. Veracity and verifiability of PLEs. The existing approach to the evaluation of the veracity of PLEs is based on the principles of empirical scientific research. The decision about accepting or rejecting the reincarnation hypothesis is anchored in and dependent on the verifiability of the data which is derived from PLEs, both spontaneous and hypnotic. Based on that, the logic behind the concept of the veracity of PLE information suggests that if reincarnation, in whatever form, does exist, and consequently PLEs represent true and real-life experiences, then it should be possible to verify PLEs against existing historical records and public documents. It was first very clearly voiced by Venn in his research in 1988, and that basically triggered the subsequent researches by Spanos, Kampmann, and Hervinoy later, addressing and trying to investigate different aspects of PLE phenomena, as well as trying to get or provide some verification for the data reported in PLEs. At the same time, the idea to obtain veridical data in attempts to confirm the veracity of PLEs, as it has been directed by mainstream empirical research, scientific research, may not be principally correct. The main problem with verification of the information about the existence of PLEs accounts is that there's no clarity and certainty about what ostensible reality is referenced in each particular case. because it is not known what particular informational domain is accessed neither in the case of hypnotic nor spontaneous PLEs. The past life memories might not be accurate from a historical point of view because they may relate to some historical events, people, or geographical places which could belong to some other ostensible realities, where the timeline continuum is developing along with others, just like on that illustration with the multiple layers of multiple universes. Although these realities may look very similar to the one that we associate ourselves with, their resemblance cannot be accepted as viable evidence unless there are verifiable references that prove that connection. Due to the complexity and the perplexity of the questions related to understanding the origins, the access and retrieval mechanisms, and interpretation of other life experiences, no concrete answers to these questions are available at this time, unfortunately. However, the research of such domains of human existence as expanded consciousness, soul fragmentation and multiplicity, along with the nature of physical and non-physical realities, may create a foundation and provide the groundwork for further exploration and understanding of the multifaceted character of other life experiences. There are a bunch of references. This actually 3 slides cover only letters from A to C. More, many more. So this is a very exciting and intricate topic. For me, it is quite meaningful because the therapeutic method that I have developed uses the concept of other life phenomena, of concept of other lives. And in my practical experience, I learned that there's no certainty that whatever informational domain we go into is necessarily past life. I had experience where in a number of cases those past lives overlapped and clearly could not exist if we understand the timeline continuum as a linear progression. So that basically what triggered this research and interest in this phenomenon. Thank you. Questions, please? Yes.
I understand that you were intrigued by that when you saw the timeline was not working for
Right.
the expression of other people. But I was wondering about your passion that drew you to reincarnation. Was it personal for you? You had experiences where you felt you were reliving something or being exposed to something that was very familiar? You know, what drew you in this to this area of study?
I started to develop this method almost over 20 years ago. So I came across a person who is a healer all the way back when I lived in Russia. She's an amazing person doing healing, intuitive healing for many times. This April she was 90 years. She celebrated her 90-year anniversary, and she's absolutely clear mind and vibrant. So she was the initiator. So I just came to learn about her, and I got acquainted with her, and she started that process for me. And as time went by, I started working with clients, I started to think about and investigate different cases, and was interested what are the mechanisms. Well, the mechanisms are not very clear, obviously.
So was she thinking that some of the illness that was manifesting in the body she was working on were from previous incarnations?
Yes.
Is that how it?
Yes, that's the basic. That's the underlying concept of other life therapy. Other life therapy. So the core problem is somewhere there.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal is to access that information and to work out this problem in a way that there is emotional release and there is a cognitive restructuring that helps to do that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sergei, two questions. First, I really like your presentation. Thank you for sharing it. One is, I see that there is a lot of emphasis on the research in finding kind of an objective correlate of past life experience. And if the experience of past life don't match historical records, then we go to the hypothesis of parallel possible realities where those memories recalled would make sense. I was wondering if there is maybe a trap in trying to objectify the experience, even if it's in a frame of multiple realities, and if you would see a room for looking at the symbolic level of the past life recall instead of a literal interpretation of the past life recall as something objective that happened in some reality. That's one thing. And the other is if you see kind of a fundamental dualism between body and soul linked to this theory of reincarnation, like souls taking empty bodies and using the body to incarnate themselves. How do you see that problem?
I'll start with this with the second question. The theory of reincarnation. It's a big discussion, naturally. There are two principal parts of a reincarnation theory. There's something that actually Stevenson pointed out. There's and they're related to two types of karma: the retributional karma and transpositional karma. In other words, the retributional karma is the karma based on the concept of consequences of other life actions of karma, and transpositional karma is the carryover of some energy matter, some subtle matter that goes from one body, physical body, to another physical body. The question, so what happens based on the theory of transpositional karma, the concept of transpositional karma, is that this matter manifests in another physical body. So the information pertains in the karmic layer, in the karmic shell of multiple shell concept of esoteric anatomy. So it is not accessible for us because it is designed so that we do not retain the memories of in our conscious and our awakened mind. We don't retain the memories of other lives. However, there are some indications in the literature, and many people notice that there are certain things that hint us to might be something that out there, like certain languages are easier for us to learn than the others. Like experiences similar to deja vu experiences when people find themselves in a totally unfamiliar environment and they basically know where they are. That leads to the first question. So there were actually few studies of hypnotic PLEs that were completely confirmed. One done by Tarazi in 1990, and the other was done by Ramster, Australian hypnotherapist. Fascinating stories, documented. Unfortunately, what happened is that whereas Ian Stevenson had a lot of resources and dedicated his life to research of spontaneous PLEs in children claiming their past life experiences, psychotherapists normally don't have that kind of resources to go through the archives and spend a lot of time and dedicate a lot of time to the thorough, rigorous research. However, like I said, those cases do exist. What may have happened, my understanding is that whereas these experiences are verified and proved to be veridical, it could be that in this particular case, or in those cases, we're basically talking about reality that corresponds to the lifetime continuum that we're living in. Whereas in the other cases, there might be some other realities. The main problem is that there's no clear understanding how to distinguish between those. So the studies by Spanos, for example, and Venn and Baker, they tried to verify the data, and they didn't find the veridical data. They just confirmed that the subjects didn't provide the data that correspond to the that could be verified. But they never actually stepped further and thought that they might be verifying something that's not verifiable, that may not be possible to verify because of something else. So they were basically working on that assumption that whatever is produced, whatever the PLEs produced by subjects, by participants in the study, are necessarily the PLEs corresponding to our reality. If that answers the question. I guess I'm running kind of out of time. One more question, please.
I was just curious about different kinds of hierarchies of morality that potentially are in play, with karma and reincarnation in terms of complexity of individuals. It's kind of a big question.
It is a huge question.
I'm just interested, any feelings or insights, say when you're working with a client, for instance, and you're meeting this kind of person, soul and energy of this karmic history. Just, I don't know, just how you account for the complexities and, how it's been used, to justify caste systems and things, but particularly with individuals of complexities.
Let's narrow it down to that part, because that goes into the
I know.
Indian tradition and caste system. It's we're way beyond. The personal involvement, I can tell you just what is the personal involvement during the therapy session, for example. It's different, and the connection to the specific reality, specific story is also different for me and for the client. The difference between other life therapy, principal difference between other life therapy and the classical past life therapy is that I do not put the client in hypnosis. I don't use hypnosis. It's mild trance, so it's the consciousness is extended. The person is present. The consciousness is extended to that reality where the karmic problem is, where the karmic knot, as I call it. my involvement and the client's involvement, being in a state of mild trance, different. But one of the purposes is that I try to guard the client from the certain amplitudes of emotional release and catharsis in a way, because I do personally believe that that's not necessary, is not necessary. Past life therapy thinks it is. In my experience, it's not necessary. So the person is more comfortable in this case. My involvement and my emotional participation in this process can differ. I feel sometimes I feel the distance, and I try to keep the distance. Although sometimes the emotions are very, very profound, and I feel very, very strongly involved. So those are feelings because I'm there with the person. It's not that I'm a outside observer. That's the difference. So, but of course, the whole question goes very